When I was 8 years old, I stole a little bottle of protein shake from my local church in order to see how well it would age. This would mark the beginning of this bottle's journey towards the trash can. I put the protein shake on top of my desk and watched it age as I aged. I waited 11 years to finally get an answer to my Mary's Room experiment. In an article written on January 23rd, 2020 by the Philosophical Studies, they explained that the Mary's Room thought experiment followed the life of an imaginary scientist named Mary. Mary knew every scientific fact about color. However, she has not experienced color for herself. If Mary was suddenly exposed to color, would she learn something? Today, I am here to inform you about the Mary's Room thought experiment. First, I will talk about the two main arguments of the Mary's Room thought experiment. Second, I'll explain why the creator came up with this hypothetical situation. And third, I'll be talking about the lesson of the thought experiment. The two main arguments that the hypothetical question focuses on is whether or not Mary learned something new. If Mary does learn something new about the concept of color, this would suggest that there exists some sort of quantitative or qualitative aspect that scientific facts cannot describe. According to an article that was revised by the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy on September 23rd, 2019, philosophers Daniel Stolajar and Eugen Nagasawa defined the qualitative aspect as qualia. The assumption that qualia exists forms the basis of the knowledge argument. However, if Mary does not learn something new about color, this would suggest that qualia does not exist. On November 4th, 2019, Springer Nature stated that this idea is what's known as physicalism. Physicalism would suggest that anything can be recreated as long as there is enough facts known about that object. Now that I have talked about the two arguments of the Mary's Room thought experiment, I will now go over as to why this hypothetical was created in the first place. The original philosopher who invented the Mary's Room thought experiment was a man named Frank Jackson, and he intended to prove that there exists an unknown fact that can only be experienced. On May 5th, 1986, Frank Jackson would write in a journal article to the Journal of Philosophy claiming that the Mary's Room thought experiment was originally created because he believed Mary did not know what color looked like, despite her knowledge of what color looked like. He reasoned that before Mary is exposed to color, she could imagine what color looked like based on the facts that she knew. But this isn't the same as physically seeing what color looked like. Mary is therefore limited in her knowledge of what color actually looks like because her imagination isn't the same as what color actually looks like. Frank Jackson would therefore conclude that different people could have different experiences of an object despite knowing the same facts about an object. After finally going over both sides of the Mary's Room experiment, as well as identifying the intentions of Frank Jackson, I will now discuss how to apply the Mary's Room thought experiment to our day-to-day lives. The Mary's Room thought experiment encourages students to not only study, but also apply what they're studying. In a study that was accepted by Science Direct on April 5th, 2016, the lead researcher, Johnny Collins, concluded that their subjects tend to learn more through VR. This study would prove the age old adage of knowledge is useless if it isn't applied. And by applying this same adage to the Mary's Room thought experiment, it is clear that students wants to apply their knowledge and they learn better when they do so. Cal Poly Pomona's motto of learn by doing exists for a reason as that in that case. Today, I informed you about the Mary's Room thought experiment. First, I talked about both sides of the Mary's Room thought experiment. Second, I discussed why Frank Jackson came up with this thought experiment. And third, I went over how we can use this thought experiment in order to help us become effective learners. As soon as I opened the bottle, it was everything that I expected it was. Disgusting, rancid, but when I poured the drink into a cup, I discovered something new. The drink turned green when it was originally white. Needless to say, I threw that drink away.